If you're trying to decide between Princess Cruises and Royal Caribbean, it can feel a bit overwhelming. They're two very different cruise experiences, and the one that's right for you depends far more on the atmosphere you prefer than anything else. In this video, I'll break down exactly what you get on each line, from dining and entertainment to service, technology, itineraries, and what the vibe is actually like on board, so you can decide which one you should book. I've cruised on both lines most recently, on Sky Princess in the Mediterranean, and on Independence of the Seas sailing out of Southampton, and I've traveled to over 70 countries. So what I'm sharing is real experience, based on what these cruises are genuinely like. Let's start with something everyone looks at first, and that's the price. Because this is where Princess and Royal Caribbean begin to drift in very different directions. Royal Caribbean often looks cheaper at first glance, especially on shorter sailings. But once you start adding things like gratuities, specialty dining, drinks packages, room service fees, and Wi-Fi, the total cost can creep up quite quickly. Princess, on the other hand, tends to feel more all-in. Their fares often include more dining, more service touches, and with Princess Plus, or Princess Premier, a lot of the things that would cost extra on Royal Caribbean are wrapped into one price. It means you can work out what your holiday will cost long before you get on the ship. On itineraries of similar length, Princess and Royal Caribbean often price fairly close, but once you add in everything you'll spend on board, Princess usually edges ahead for overall value. Now, let's talk about food, because both cruise lines do it really well, but in very different ways. And the food on board is actually closer between these two lines than people think. Royal Caribbean has some great casual venues. Sorrento's is always popular, the buffet has plenty of choice, and the specialty restaurants like Chop's Grill, Giovanni's Table, and Izumi are excellent. But you do reach the limit of included restaurants quite quickly. On Princess, what really surprised me was just how many included options there are. On Sky Princess alone, you've got the International Cafe, the World Fresh Marketplace Buffet, the main dining rooms, and several casual grab-and-go venues. You don't feel pushed into paying for specialty dining in the same way you sometimes do on Royal Caribbean. And the buffet on Princess was a clear win for me. It had more variety, more stations open at peak times, and far better flow. Even on sea days, I never struggled to find a table. Quality-wise, both do well. I'd happily eat on either line. But Princess has the edge if you want more included choice without the supplements. Entertainment is where the two lines really feel different. Royal Caribbean is still ahead if you want big production shows. On Independence of the Seas, the full performance of Greece was brilliant, and the ice shows in Studio B are genuinely unique at sea. There's a real wow factor that Princess doesn't try to compete with. But on Princess, the live music offering is on another level. On Sky Princess, there was always something happening. Live bands in the piazza, musicians in Crown Grill, jazz in Take 5, and quizzes and shows in Princess Live. You could walk from venue to venue and always find something you enjoyed, without feeling like you had to queue or turn up half an hour early. That was the biggest difference I noticed. Royal Caribbean has good entertainment, but the smaller venues on Independence filled up fast. Sometimes you simply couldn't get a seat. On Princess, the spaces felt bigger, calmer, and easier to enjoy. Activities are where the ships themselves start to feel worlds apart. So this section is especially important, depending on who you're traveling with. If you're cruising with children or teens, then Royal Caribbean win this section easily. Flow rider, water slides, ice skating, rock climbing, splash parks, escape rooms. There's genuinely so much to do that the ship becomes part of the holiday. Princess has great pools, sunbathing areas, and a lovely adults-only sanctuary. But you won't find the big attractions or high-energy activities. It's much more relaxed. That's why the atmosphere on board feels so different. Royal Caribbean is lively, busy, and full of energy, especially on short sailings. Princess is calmer, quieter, and feels more refined. If you want a proper resort at sea, with activities from morning to night, Royal Caribbean is the better fit. And here's something that genuinely surprised me. Once I'd sailed with both lines, Princess consistently felt better staffed. On Sky Princess, senior officers were visible throughout the day. Crew were always around the bars and lounges, and my cabin steward seemed to be everywhere, helpful, friendly, and never far away. On Royal Caribbean, especially on short cruises, you can really feel the difference. Bars were constantly busy, queues formed early, and I barely saw my cabin steward at all. The crew was still good, but there were moments where it felt like there simply weren't enough of them for the number of guests on board. It's one of those things people often notice only after they sail both lines. The ships themselves tell their own story. Princess ships like Sky Princess feel bright, elegant, and open. The piazza is the heart of the ship and has this warm, welcoming energy, especially in the evenings with live music. Royal Caribbean ships, especially the older ones, have that indoor promenade feel. It's fun, busy, and full of energy, but also more enclosed and darker. It's less of a calm atrium space and more of a shopping street at sea. Princess also tends to attract an older crowd. Technology might not be the first thing you think about when booking a cruise, but it genuinely shapes your experience every single day. And this is a very clear win for Princess. MedallionClass genuinely changes the feel of the holiday. Your cabin opens automatically, drinks and food can be delivered anywhere on the ship, and service feels incredibly personal because crew instantly know who you are. Royal Caribbean's app is fine, it does the basics, but after using MedallionClass, it feels like a step backwards. Tech is one of Princess's strongest advantages. Another really important difference, especially if you enjoy longer holidays, is the itineraries each cruise line actually offers. And this is another area where Princess really stand out. Royal Caribbean's longest sailings from Southampton are 9 nights. That's it. If you want a proper 2-week holiday without flying, then Princess are the only option. That's why I met several long-time Royal Caribbean fans on my Mediterranean adventure who were trying Princess for the very first time. They loved Royal, but they wanted more than a week at sea. And Princess offered the itineraries they actually wanted. Princess simply offer more choice, more variety for UK cruisers. So with all those differences in mind, here's the part most people want to know. Which cruise line is actually right for you? If you want big shows, water slides, family attractions, and a ship that feels like a floating resort, then Royal Caribbean is the right choice. You will never run out of things to do. But if you want longer itineraries, great service, calmer lounges, better buffet variety, and the convenience of MedallionClass, then Princess Cruises will be a far better fit. Food and entertainment are close enough that you'll enjoy either. So now you know the real differences between Princess and Royal Caribbean. What most people still want to know next: where should I eat? Click on screen now for my Sky Princess dining options video, where I walk you through every venue, what's included, and the restaurants that are actually worth paying for. That's the next video you'll want to watch.